I was curious about what obligations a landlord has to fix things in my apartment. If something is broken, is the landlord required to repair it? Or do I just have to live with it?
So landlords are required to maintain safe and healthy living conditions in your apartment. If something breaks and that makes it difficult to live in your apartment, the landlord is required to fix it. Now, this does not mean that the landlord has to fix every kind of cosmetic issue, such as scrapes on the paint or stains on the carpet. Rather, it applies to more serious issues like broken appliances, large holes in the wall or ceiling, leaking water, or lack of utilities. Things that might threaten the safety or health of the people living in the apartment.
What other responsibilities does the landlord have?
Now, the landlord has a variety of responsibilities to maintain the property. The apartment must have working heating, electrical, and plumbing systems, including safe drinking water and hot water. This does not mean that the landlord has to pay for them, just that the apartment must have access to them. The landlord also has to provide for garbage removal, keep the common areas clean and safe in a multi-unit apartment building, and provide door locks and smoke and carbon monoxide detectors. Now, the tenant does have corresponding obligations not to damage any of these things.
What happens if the landlord does not meet his or her responsibilities?
Potentially, this could be a justification for moving out of the apartment. Ideally, though, things would not get to this point. If something is broken in your apartment or not supplied, you should contact the landlord to see about getting the situation fixed.
If you cause the damage, you might be responsible for paying for it. Intentionally causing significant damage over $400 is a cause for eviction. In fact, the landlord can evict you after 24 hours for intentionally causing over $400 worth of damage to your apartment.
But oftentimes, things break from normal use, and it's the landlord's responsibility to fix or hire someone to fix broken appliances and utilities. But Dan, does this mean that the landlord can just come into my apartment without notice to fix things or even just to check up on me?
The landlord can come into your apartment to inspect or fix something that is broken or to show off the apartment if you are planning to move. But even then, other than for emergencies, the landlord must provide you with 24 hours notice before coming into your apartment, and can only come into your apartment at a reasonable hour. Of course, if you want something repaired, then you should work to accommodate the landlord, even if the landlord gives you less than 24 hours notice. The landlord cannot come into your apartment unannounced just to check up on you. If the landlord makes an unlawful entry into your apartment, you could sue the landlord for 1 month's rent for each instance. But if the landlord does follow the proper procedures, and you refuse to let the landlord into your apartment, that could be grounds for eviction.
So if the landlord does not make necessary repairs or supply required utilities, what options does the renter have? Can the renter just withhold rent until the utilities are working?
There are very limited conditions under which you can withhold rent if there are problems with your apartment. You can only withhold rent if your utilities, water, sewer, hot water, heat, electricity, are not working. Even then, you cannot withhold rent if the utilities are off because you had a responsibility to pay them and did not. And before you withhold rent, you have to give the landlord a written and dated notice and a reasonable amount of time to fix the problem.
What about damages other than utilities?
You need to let the landlord know about the need for repairs first. But if the landlord ignores your request, you can give the landlord a written notice stating that if the problem is not fixed within 10 days, you will move out 10 days after that. This could be a useful tool to get the landlord to make repairs, but it also might backfire on you because you would be committing to moving out. So do not take this option unless you are sure you want to move if the repairs are not made.
Can you withhold rent if repairs are not made?
No, you cannot. If you have repairs that need to be made and do not pay the rent, then potentially you could use the lack of repairs as a defense at trial to being evicted. But this can be a risky strategy. It is usually best to stay out of court if you can.